Hi, my name is Patrick Reagan. Welcome to the Introduction to Active Directory, where we discuss what is Active Directory and what is an Active Directory domain and an Active Directory domain controller. And we discuss the objects found in Active Directory. As always, stick around for the practice questions at the end to test your knowledge and help you prepare for the A+ exam. If you find this video helpful, don't forget to click the like button. And if you have not already, subscribe to the Pat Has Your Back channel for more tech training content and technical know-how. Computers on a network can be part of a workgroup or a domain. Workgroups, all computers are pairs. Each computer has its own security database and a set of user accounts. To log on to any computer in the workgroup, you must have an account on that computer. A workgroup is usually used on small networks with less than 20 computers. The disadvantages are user accounts will have to be created on every computer. If you use the same account on multiple computers, every time you change the password, you have to change the password on all computers. A domain is a logical administrative boundary that groups together network objects such as users, computers, printers, and security groups. Domains use a centralized security database, known as Active Directory, that are stored on servers known as domain controllers, which are used to control the security permissions for all computers on the domain. Domain users and accounts can access any resource within the domain as long as they've been granted access to the resource using a single set of credentials. Domains allows the administrator to control computer settings to ensure consistency among computers. Domains can support thousands of computers and often used in large organizations or companies that require better security. While a client computer running Windows 10 and 11 can be part of the domain, they can also have local accounts. Remember, Windows 10 and 11 home versions do not support joining to a domain, what other versions do. Active Directory domain provides the following. Centralized authentication. In a domain, your account is created exactly once in the central Active Directory database, and the user can use that account to access any of the computers within the domain and log in with a single account. You can also provide single sign-on where you log into the computer. You can access other domain resources without login every time you access these resources. Universal security boundary. Every object with the domain shares a common set of access rules. For example, John Smith has an account within the domain, and a file server, printer, or remote desktop machine inside the domain trusts the domain controller to vouch for John's identity. Administrative control via group policies, or GPOs. An administrator can use group policy objects, or GPOs, to enforce rules across the entire domain simultaneously to configure the systems within the domain, including the settings to desktop wallpaper, update security patches, or block USB thumb drives. Active Directory is a technology created by Microsoft that provides a variety of network services, including the following. Lightweight Directory Access Protocol, or LDAP, is for querying and modifying data using directory services running over TCP/IP. LDAP uses TCP port 389. Kerberos-based authentication, the default computer network authentication protocol, which allows hosts to prove their entity over a non-secure network in a secure manner. Active Directory also provides single sign-on authentication. Directory services allows you to organize and name all of your network resources, including users, groups, printers, computers, and other objects, and to manage passwords, and is a major component when discussing authorization. Directory services is based on DNS-based naming. Active Directory provides a central location for network administration and delegation of authority. Here is a sample domain called corp.contoso.com. Within the domain, it has two domain controllers. When a user or computer logs in, they will contact the domain controller to log in. It is these credentials that will be used to access resources within the domain, such as file shares, printers, and email. A domain controller is a Windows server that stores a replica of the account and security information of the domain and defines the domain boundaries. To make a computer running Windows Server a domain controller, it's necessary to first install the Active Directory domain services, then promote the server to a domain controller by running the Active Directory wizard. Active Directory uses multi-master replication, which means that there's no master domain controller. It's recommended to have more than one domain controller to provide fault tolerance. A server on the domain that is not run as a domain controller is known as a member server. To demote a domain controller to a member server, you would run the Active Directory wizard again. Within the directory, the set of objects is organized in a logical hierarchy manner so that the objects can easily be located and managed. The structure can reflect geographically or organizational boundaries, although it tends to use DNS names for structuring the topmost levels of the hierarchy. Deeper inside the directory might appear entries representing users, computers, organizational units, printers, groups of people, or anything else that represents a given tree entry or multiple entries. To help organize objects within a domain and minimize the number of domains, you use organizational units commonly expressed as OUs. OUs can be used to hold users, groups, computers, or other organizational units. An organization unit can only contain objects that are located in a domain. Organization units are usually created based on geography, functions, roles, department, or teams. Organization units can also be used for management of the objects inside the organization unit, including use to deploy group policies. The only true default OU is the domain controller's OU, which is used to store computer accounts for all domain controllers. The domain controller's OU starts with the default domain controller GPO, and others can be assigned as needed. Default containers that are often mistaken for OUs, which cannot link GPOs directly, are users, which are used for default location for newly created user accounts and groups, computers, which is the default location for newly joined computer accounts, and built-in, which holds default security groups, including the administrator's group. An object is a distinct named set of attributes or characteristics that represent a network resource. Common objects used within Active Directory are computers, users, groups, and printers. Attributes have values that define a specific object. For example, a user can have the first name John and the last name Smith and the login name as J. Smith, all of which identify the user. When working with objects, administrators will use names of the objects such as usernames. However, Active Directory uses Object GUID, short for Globally Unique Identifier, which is a 128-bit, 32-bit character hexadecimal string used by the operating system and directory services to keep track of what the object is, regardless of where it goes or what it is named. If a user changes his or her name, you can change the name and he will still be able to access all objects and have all the same rights and permissions as before because they're assigned to the GUID, not the name. The object SID, also known as Security Identifier, or SID, is a string of numbers separated by hyphens which combines the domain ID and the relative ID, or RID, that specifies the specific user within the domain. It's used by the Windows Security Engine when evaluating access, which is used when a user is granted access tokens when they log in. Access Control List, or ACLs, which specify who can access a resource as a file, will list the SIDs of the users who have access to a resource. If a user is assigned to an access control list, such as a file or folder, and the user is deleted, the SID of the object will remain in the access control list since the user does not point to an existing user. Think of the object GUID as the user's physical biometric fingerprint, which is unique across the entire universe and never changes. Think of the object SID as the user's corporate security access card, and it grants the person access to doors based on its current building layout. When creating a domain user account, supply a first name, last name, and user's logon name. Active Directory user accounts have two logins. User principal name, or UPN, is an internet-style login name that resembles an email address, such as username@domainname.com. To reduce confusion, it's recommended to set the UPN and email address to the same name. Same account name, a legacy login name, is based on domain name /username. The domain name is based on the NetBIOS domain name. The SAM account name should be less than 20 characters. Both users' login names must be unique within the domain. The screenshot shows when you're defining the first name, last name, UPN, and SAM account name. This screen shows after the account has been created. The first account that has full access to the domain is the domain administrator. The default name of the account is domain name /administrator. While the domain administrator user cannot be deleted, it can be renamed. To make a user domain administrator, just add the user account to the domain admins group. Like user accounts, Windows computer accounts provide a means for authenticating and auditing the computer's access to the Windows network and its access to domain resources. Each Windows computer to which you want to grant access to resources must have a unique computer account. It can also be used for auditing purposes, specify what system was used when something was accessed. Windows systems in Active Directory have a computer name, SAM account name, which is a limit of 15 characters. It can have dashes and underscores, but cannot have spaces and other special characters. To add a computer to the domain, you open Windows Settings, System, About, Advanced System Properties. When the System dialog box opens, click the Computer Name tab and click Change. In the Computer Name text box, you specify the computer name, which can be different than its current name, and you specify the domain name. You'll have to specify administrative credentials that has the ability to add a computer to the domain. To complete the changes, you'll have to reboot the computer. When you add a computer, it will be added to the computer container. You should then move it to the correct organizational unit. A group is a collection or list of user accounts or computer accounts. Different from a container, such as a domain or organizational unit, the group does not store the user or computer, it just lists them. The advantage of using groups is to simplify administration, especially when assigning rights and permissions. When assigning rights and permissions to the group, all users listed in the group receive the rights and permissions rather than grant to each other individually. When new people get hired, you add the user to the group, and they will get all the rights and permissions granted to the group. Users and computers can be members of multiple groups, and in some instances, a group can be assigned to another group. In Windows Active Directory, there are two types of groups: security and distribution. The security group is used to assign rights and permissions and gain access to a network resource. It can also be used as a distribution group. A distribution group is only for non-security functions such as email distribution and cannot be assigned rights or permissions to any resources. You can add a user to a group using one of these two methods. You can open the group and add the user into the Members tab, or you can open the user and add the group in the Member Of tab. Some of the administrative groups include Domain Admins Group, found under Users Container, is a global security group that automatically gains full control over every computer and object in a specific domain. Domain Users, found in Users Container, is a low-privilege baseline group that automatically includes every single user account in the domain, granting them basic network access. Administrators Group, found in the built-in container, is a domain local group that directly holds permissions on domain controllers and manages overall system security. Account Operators Group, also found in the built-in container, is a high-privileged administrative group used to create, modify, and delete most user accounts, groups, and computer objects within the domain. When you log in with the domain account to a computer that is on the domain, you don't have to add the domain name / before the username. However, if you're logging in with the domain administrator account, you'll have to add the domain name /. To log in with the local account on the computer that is part of a domain, you'll have to use the computer name /username or period /username. The administrator will be the exception. Notice the computer name, which in this case is PC2. On the domain controllers, you will find the Active Directory tools already installed. If you want to install Active Directory tools on a member server, you use the Server Manager to install the Active Directory using Server Manager at Roles and Features wizard, specifically under the Features page. Remote Server Administration Tool, or RSAT, enables IT administrators to remotely manage roles and features in Windows Server from a computer that is running Windows 10 or 11. Tools include Active Directory Certificate Services, or ADCS tools, Active Directory Domain Services, or ADDS tools, DNS server tools, failover clustering tools, file server tools, group policy management tools, and Hyper-V tools. These tools are built using MMC. To install RSAT in Windows 10 or 11, visit the websites displayed on the screen. Active Directory Users and Computer is the traditional program used to manage domain users, computers, organizational units, and groups. A newer tool to manage domain users, computers, organization units, and groups is the Active Directory Administrative Center. It can also be used to configure password setting objects and to undelete a deleted object. On a server, you can open Administrative Tools or Windows Tools and open Active Directory Users and Computers. Active Directory Users and Computer allows you to manage users and computer accounts and manage groups and organizational units. If you navigate to the OU where a user, computer, or other resource, you can see common attributes if you double-click the resource or right-click the object and select Properties to open the common attributes of the object. If you right-click a user, you can disable or re-enable the account, reset a password, move the account, or rename the account. To see all attributes, you have to first open the View menu and select Advanced Features. The Advanced feature will show you additional tabs, including the Attribute Editor, where you will see all attributes for the object. However, you have to open the properties from the OU the object is in. You can use the Find option to find an object within the node you search from. You can right-click the object and move the object to another OU. You can right-click the object and change the password. It should be noted that when you open the Properties page, you can determine the location of the object by looking at the Object tab. Question: what does the Active Directory use to store the Active Directory database? Answer: domain controller. Question: what allows you to create a user account and have that user account the ability to log on to any computer within the domain? Answer: domain account. Question: what is used to organize your resources based on function or department? Answer: organizational unit. Question: what is the maximum length of a computer name? Answer: 15. Question: what is used to simplify administration of rights and permissions? Answer: security groups. For more information, visit these sites. In summary, domains use a centralized security database, Active Directory, that are stored on servers known as domain controllers, which are used to control the security and permissions of all computers on the domain. A domain controller is a Windows server that stores a replica of the account and security information of the domain and defines the domain boundaries. A server that is not running as a domain controller is known as a member server. To help organize objects within the domain and minimize the number of domains, use organization units, commonly expressed as OUs. A user account enables the user to log on to a computer and domain, which can be used to prove the identity of the user, which can then be used to determine what kind of access the user will have, which is authorization. The first account that has full access to the domain is the domain administrator. Like user accounts, Windows computer accounts provide a means for authenticating and auditing the computer's access to a Windows network and its access to domain resources. A group is a collection or list of user accounts or computer accounts. Thank you for watching this video. The next video will be Windows Services Part 2, Understanding NTFS Permissions. If you like this video, click the like button. If you have not already, subscribe to the Pat Has Your Back channel. Thank you.